pop, but Melon Brawler is now taking advantage to push it around. Skippy trying to get some space so it can get that weapon spun back up. Very powerful, gets a good shove against Melon Brawler, holds against the wall for a moment and pops it up over the top of itself. A lot of the rest of the bot safe, so it needs to keep those alive. Oh, another good pop. It does still have the flipper part though.
Those were just a few clips of my 3-pound combat robot Melon Brawler fighting other robots at competition. Today I want to show you how it performed at the Armory in Hastings, Minnesota in August 2024. I'm Caden here with Kepler Electronics, and let me show you how it went. If you haven't seen the last video on Melon Brawler, you should probably go check it out because it does give a pretty good overview of what the robot is, but the gist is pretty simple. It's a 4-wheel drive lifter robot that aims to push opponents around and beach them either upside down or against walls and in corners and stuff. Its first outing was at SEMO's July event at QuadCon in Peoria, Illinois, where it actually did pretty well. The next event at RSL was less than a month later, and the robot would be pretty much unchanged. The only major difference was that I added some capacitors to the drive motors to prevent the random stuttering and unintended movement like seen at QuadCon. Honestly, the only other thing to mention is that Melon Brawler was having some drive issues the entire event. I don't know why, but the morning of the competition, when I went to go through safety and get everything all checked in, it just started pulling to one side. I'm really not sure why. Recalibrating the drive controller after the event fixed it, but nothing I did at the event, no trimming on the controller or any of that stuff managed to make it go away. So I was just kind of dealing with it the entire day. It didn't end up causing me too many problems, but it was something that was a little bit frustrating. So with all that said, I think it's actually time we take a look at some fights. What do you say?
Skippy gets its weapon up and running, gets a decent pop, but Melon Brawler is now taking advantage to push it around.
Melon Brawler's first fight of the day was against a robot called TBD. Yes, that's the actual name of the robot. It confused me and a lot of other people at the event. It's a 2-wheel drive vertical spinner, drum spinner, pretty common archetype in the 3-pound competitions, so let's just see how the fight went.
Got the thumbs up, so this fight will start in 3, 2, 1, go! Both bots make their way out to center. TBD is going to want to be aggressive with that egg beater. Melon Brawler is going to try and control the match and use that flipper to disorient its opponent. TBD controlling the center early. Melon Brawler getting a little bit hampered on some of the damage to the floor. TBD's weapon is spun down. Don't know if that was on purpose or if it just needs some space. Melon Brawler giving chase. Just over a minute, or just under a minute 30 remaining. TBD gets a good push onto Melon Brawler there. Melon Brawler, though, is low and has those wedges, makes it hard to push around. Melon Brawler and them both get into a shoving match in the middle. Melon Brawler gets TBD up on top of it and shoves it into the wall. You can hold the pins for up to 5 seconds. Oh, uses its flipper. It uses its flipper to get itself out, but it looks like both bots are stuck. Oh, no. It gets TBD stuck on its side, but it's the side without the screw. That's the count out started. All right, Melon Brawler wins via knockout. Manages to get TBD stuck.
I started this match by trying to drive straight into the weapon, mostly for fun and partly just because that's how I like to start these matches. Between the floor and the drive issues, I made an error pretty early on and almost let him get a free shot at my wheels, but managed to recover and slam my forks into the drum like I wanted to. Between this and a couple wall hits, his drum goes down and I can go full push mode. Or at least try to. Like Casey the ref said, I managed to get my lifter pierced through the weapon mechanism and in the process of getting myself free, prop them up on the wall. Since I put them there, no arena unstick was given and I won by knockout. Overall, an improvement in the driving department over the fights in July. There's still some lifter weirdness, I kept moving it down instead of up for some reason, but there were only a couple of moments where I put myself in jeopardy. Overall, I think that was a pretty good performance. Melon Brawler's next fight was against Very Powerful, a 4-wheel drive dual disc spinner. This is one of my favorite 3-pound robots, actually. It's built like a much heavier weight class robot with like nut strip and all sorts of really cool techniques. It does not look like a 3-pounder. It looks like a scaled down 30. But let's actually see how the fight went. It's a pretty fun one.
In 3, 2, 1, go! Very powerful with a vertical spinner. Melon Brawler with a flipper. Two very different approaches. One's going to try and control the arena. One of them wants to deal damage and destroy wheels with those, with the vertical spinner. Melon Brawler getting hung up a little bit on the damage to the floor. Very powerful, trying to get alongside to the edges, but it's getting hampered by the wedges on Melon Brawler. Melon Brawler doing a good job keeping its defenses pointed towards Very Powerful, but it's going to need to get some aggression in. Very Powerful getting around to the side, but oh, Melon Brawler gets a good hit right on the side, manages to flip it for a moment. Melon Brawler gets re-inverted by a hit from Very Powerful. Oh, Very Powerful sends itself into the wall. You can hear it hit metal on metal there for a second. 1 minute left in the match. Melon Brawler has to use its flipper to get itself off the floor for a second, but actually gets a good push on Very Powerful as a result. Both these bots driving around each other. Oh, Melon Brawler gets a good shove into the corner, manages to hold him there for just a second. Not quite a full pin, but does manage to hold it for a moment. Show some control around the arena. Very Powerful comes in for a hit on the backside. Oh, gets a few sparks as it hits the forks on the front of Melon Brawler. Oh no, Very Powerful hits itself up onto the wall for a moment, manages to get itself free though. Very Powerful gets a good shove against Melon Brawler, holds against the wall for a moment, and pops it up over the top of itself. Both bots now in a shoving match in the middle there, trying to show which one has the most traction. Oh, another good hit against the wall. 7 seconds remaining in the fight. Very Powerful continues to give chase. Melon Brawler doing a good job keeping its defenses forward. 1 second remaining, and time in the round. Good job to both drivers. This one will go to the judges.
This was a really fun match, ignoring all of the floor frustrations. I was lower, so most frontal exchanges I managed to come out on top, usually resulting in them flipping over, but Very Powerful did manage to flip me a couple times too. This match showed me a few things. For one, forks are really hard to drive with. I got stuck constantly. I even managed to pierce the lifter into the floor, which was real fun. However, this fight also showed that the lifter can be used in a bunch of different ways. If the lifter's all the way up, I can use it as a sort of control stick to prevent my opponent from driving over top of me. I can also use it to hit the walls to escape pins like I did here. And when I get stuck under the kick plate because of just bad driving, I can use it to free myself so I don't have to use an arena unstick. I ended up losing this judge's decision, but was told it was a pretty close fight. I think if I hadn't gotten myself stuck, I might have taken it, but it was a well-fought match all around. Melon Brawler's next fight was against Skippy, another two-wheel drive vertical drum. Their weapon was very scary, and I had to be very careful with it because if I made any error, I could lose a wheel in an instant. At this point, the floor was completely destroyed, so I made a bold strategy to try and minimize getting stuck. I took 2 forks that were already pretty damaged and pretty dull and ran just 2 of these, instead of the 4 that I normally run, in an attempt to minimize the amount of time I would spend getting stuck. Let's see how that strategy paid off.
I got the thumbs up, so this fight will start in 3, 2, 1, go! Both bots jockeying for position. Melon Brawler goes over to the side. Skippy gets its weapon up and running. Gets a decent pop, but Melon Brawler is now taking advantage to push it around. Skippy trying to get some space so it can get that weapon spun back up. Melon Brawler getting behind Skippy and pushing it into the wall. Gets a pin there. These pins can be held for up to 5 seconds. Looks like Skippy's having some trouble getting that weapon spun back up. That could make its game plan a lot harder. Oh, there it goes. Just took a second. Minute 25 remaining on the clock. Melon Brawler trying to get on the side. Skippy gets a decent pop. Pops Melon Brawler up. Melon Brawler's flipper allows it a lot of flexibility. Does manage to use that flipper to get back down. Skippy popping it back up. Wants to not give it much room to wiggle. 1 minute left on the clock. You can really hear Skippy's weapon getting up there. Starting to bend those forks on the front of Melon Brawler. Those are the main things keeping a lot of the rest of the bots safe, so it needs to keep those alive. Oh, another good pop. It does still have the flipper part, though. That adds a lot of maneuverability. 40 seconds remaining. Skippy continuing to chase. You can see some of the armor getting them beat up a little bit on Melon Brawler. Lost a wheel in the process. 30 seconds remaining. Skippy is getting pinned by Melon Brawler, pushing it backwards, it looks like. They reset out to center just a little bit. Melon Brawler showing it still has mobility. 15 seconds remaining. Skippy wants to get a couple more big hits in if it can. Only 8 seconds remaining. Melon Brawler trying to show it's still alive. All right, that's time. Time in the round.
This fight was like a better version of the starting bonus fight from QuadCon, at least for me. Yeah, I lost a bunch of wheels, but overall, I kept in the fight the whole way and managed to take it to a judge's decision. Obviously, I lost, but it was a contest the whole way through. My strategy of reducing fort count worked, which is pretty cool. I still got stuck a few times, but nowhere near as often as the first 2 fights of the day. The lifter did act as a bit more of a liability here, as it kept propping me up when I got flipped, and this is where having a second person there as a weapon operator would be super useful, letting me focus on positioning the robot in the box and letting them focus on making the lifter not prop me up. The passive forks definitely did prop me up, however, especially once the mounts delaminated and let them sag more than usual, which was also non-ideal. In terms of driving, this reverse pin where I use the back of the robot to pin them against the wall is pretty cool. You can actually see the forks are digging into the floor here, and I needed to use the lifter to free them. Another wild thing I noticed is that the screws holding the motor to the gearbox sheared from a hit to the motor shaft, which is wild. It's so far removed from the shaft that this surprised me. The shock just blasted those screws off. Apparently it's more common than you'd think. Will from Starting Bonus runs epoxy on this seam for this very reason, and I was going to start to do that immediately following this event. Due to the tournament format of the competition, Melon was supposed to have another fight that day against Captain Generic, a bot longtime viewers of the channel might remember. This is the robot that executed my 1-pound robot Stomp bot in an unaffiliated, unsupervised grudge match in 2021, where it just completely eviscerated Stomp bot. It was a great fight. However, they had some technical difficulties and couldn't make it into the fight, so this left Melon Brawler at 1 and 2. And because the barrier for making it into the bracket portion of the competition was you had to have 3 and 1 or better, I was out. That ended up being a good thing because I was running out of spares, and with the floor getting just even more destroyed, how was that even possible? I was going to be having massive drive problems, and I needed to fix those. Based off of these 3 fights, Melon Brawler did actually end up getting ranked in the MRCA Beetle pool. I don't really know how that happened. It was somewhere in the mid-40s. I don't know the actual number off the top of my head because it changed after each event, and I didn't manage to screenshot it immediately after this, but it was somewhere in the mid to low 40s, much like Minneapolis in October. Speaking of October, I was supposed to go to the next RSL event in October, but I got really, really sick and couldn't talk for a week. It was nasty, it was awful, and didn't end up actually getting able to do that or put any of the modifications I made after this event into practice at another MRCA event. But I did get to take Melon to another non-MRCA event last year, so stay tuned if you want to see how that performed. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Stay tuned for more robot fighting action from Kepler Electronics. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.